Hello and welcome to the In News series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Dwivedi, and in this segment today we are going to discuss about the Battle of Moirang. Very importantly, this is a battle we never have heard of, right? And this is extremely sad because a battle such as this needs to be in our history so that it can be etched in the minds of our citizens forever. These are the many topics that we are going to discuss. Let's start with the news. Subhash Chandra Bose's kin has asked and appealed to the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi ji, that 14th April or the Moirang Day shall be commemorated as Victory Day. Why? Let's know why. First of all, let's try to know about Indian National Army, because Indian National Army is at the crux of the topic. It was an armed force formed by Indian freedom fighters and collaborators at Imperial Japan. This was formed by Rash Bihari Bose by recruiting prisoners of war and expatriate Indians in Southeast Asia. It was formed on 1st September 1942, and to secure the Indian independence from the British rule was the first and foremost aim of Indian National Army. The army was first formed in 1942 under Rash Bihari Bose by Indian prisoners of war of the British Indian Army, who were captured by Japan in the Malayan campaign and at Singapore. Malayan, that means Malaysia. Okay, and Rash Bihari Bose handed over the INA, Indian National Army, or the Azad Hind Fauj to Subhash Chandra Bose in 1943 because there was a disagreement which led to the disbandment of the Indian National Army by Rash Bihari Bose. They were actually not agreeing upon Japan's army's role in World War III. And there were different regiments. After Subhash Chandra Bose got the Indian National Army, he maintained several regiments in the Indian National Army. By the name of one regiment was named after Gandhi ji, second was after Nehru ji, then Maulana Azad ji and himself as well, Subhash Chandra Bose. For prelims, this is very important. Four you have to remember regiments: Gandhi, Nehru, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, and then himself. And there was one more regiment which was the name of Rani of Jhansi, that was Lakshmi Bai. So all women's regiment was also formed. The beauty about the INA was this Indian National Army did not use any religious symbols because they did not want to identify with any sort of religious symbols. They wanted every citizen of India to identify themselves with the modern India. Any sacrifice of any person belonging to any religion should be considered as a sacrifice of their own. So 60,000 people, or 60,000 soldiers, I must say, of the Indian National Army were like that. This was the beauty. 26,000 of them laid their lives for getting India out of the clutches of the British Empire. And the INA drew ex-prisoners and thousands of civilian volunteers as well from the Indian expatriates that I have already told you, from Malaysia and Myanmar, then Malaya and Burma. A lot of handsome donations were also given to Indian National Army back then. And the second INA, which was revived after Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's coming, it fought along the Imperial Japanese Army against the British and Commonwealth forces in the campaigns in Myanmar. There were different campaigns back then. Moving on, I don't know if you have heard about the Moirang battle. We will talk about that as well. So about Indian National Army, let's consider the following statements. This is for your prelims examination. Subhash Chandra Bose was twice elected the president of the Indian National Army. That is the first statement. Second, he founded the Indian National Army and All India Forward Bloc. So we have to select the correct statement. All these should be answered correctly. Moving on. So if we talk about the Battle of Moirang, it happened on April 14th, 1944, and the Azad Hind Fauj captured Moirang in Manipur and hoisted the Indian national flag, and it also took the half of the Nagaland from the clutches of the British Empire. Colonel Shaukat Ali Malik led the march and he hoisted the national flag on April 14, 1944. And this was the first ever victory by Indian Army against the British imperialist forces. This has been admitted by the British themselves that this was one of the most difficult, fiercest battles that they have ever fought. If something like this does not at all comes to our mind, we do not know about it, then that's very saddening. Mairambam Koirang Singh hosted the Azad Hind Fauj in Manipur, and he was the first ever chief minister of Manipur as well. Remember this fact as well. So you can see this is a an image from the 2018 when the current government took into cognizance the Platinum Jubilee celebration of victory of the Indian National Army over the British forces that was being organized as Moirang Day in Manipur. Moirang Day in Manipur is celebrated, but it wants, or it should be now celebrated as victory. That is what the kin is saying, Subhash Chandra Bose's kin is saying to the Prime Minister. So you can see that acknowledgement is a must of such significant battle. The provisional government of Azad Hind Fauj was established on October 21st, 1943. Such a huge victory, after such a huge victory, we do not know about this. That is saddening. But do we also not know about certain other things about the Indian National Army and Subhash Chandra Bose ji? That Netaji was the first head of the state and the first PM of the provisional government. Remember that, very important for prelims. And it is a matter of pride for the people of Manipur that Moirang remained under the control of the Azad Hind government for nearly 4 months. And during that period, currency and stamps of the Azad Hind government was also used. So that is something that in our history books, it should be there. Moving on, let's talk about the significance of it, as in why it should be celebrated as Victory Day. First of all, the regimentation of the Indian National Army itself, when it dedicated such a huge support to the all women's regiment by the name of Lakshmibai. So that is first very feminist in approach. Secondly, if we talk about the first ever victory, it was the first ever victory against the British imperialist forces by India. Second, that. Third, because it could maintain a government for 4 months at such harsh period. Back then, the British came down at any such violent moves with a heavy hand. So that is another thing. And our present is made by what our history was. So if our history does not acknowledge something like that, it cannot completely be discredited. Such a huge significant event, if it has been discredited, it is not at all healthy for our present and future. So that is something that we need to know about the forgotten heroes. Now let's move on to the mains based question. Discuss the significance of the Battle of Moirang. Okay. I haven't taken the names of those who have answered yesterday's question correctly. I will do it tomorrow. Okay. Accumulate the question of today and tomorrow's. Okay. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.